Hello everyone. Like everyone else in the world, I've been playing about with this chat GPT thing, and I wanted to see how well it worked out for language learners. So one of the things I did was I have started to prompt it for things to help me learn languages. Currently I'm focusing on Korea, and so one of the things I ask it to do, which you can see here, is I ask it to write a dialogue like would be in a learner's textbook. And it does this really well. I've checked this with some native speakers, and generally the responses are correct Korean, so it's not a problem, and it's very rarely wrong. It shows you the English dialogue, and it also shows you, who is speaking. So you can use this kind of like the FSI stuff, where you can speak. Now, you can also put these in some open TTS, which I did a video on. I'll show you I'll put a link somewhere. But these were quite long dialogues, so in the end, I asked it to try and make shorter dialogues. So, um, you know, less than sort of 6 lines of dialogue. And so it did that, and this worked out better for me because it's sort of shorter and quicker. So this is one of the ways you can do it, is you can just get it to invent dialogue for you to try and use and learn. Now another thing I did was for my French, I wanted it to act as a French interviewer and I'm the candidate. So I get it to ask me questions and then I respond. This helps me because I rarely ever write anything in French. And so my spelling is really atrocious and I can generally speak, but writing is terrible. And so I can use this for writing practice. And I don't know in advance what it's going to ask me, although I know the category. So this makes things easier because I know the general topic that's going to come up because it's an interview in this example. And so I can just go ahead and write it out, and I can be fairly sure of the vocabulary that I'm going to need. So this is a good exercise in trying to write. So I did this one in French. Um, Now you do need to tell it not to write explanations and, you know, not give the whole conversation at once because otherwise it will just bombard you. Now, another thing that I did was for Italian, to help me read, I prompted it to say, I want you to act as a travel guide. I'll write down the location. You suggest nearby places. I only speak Italian, so please make sure to respond in Italian. So this helps me with the reading. Again, it's a subject I picked, so I know what it's going to be, and I'm pretty sure the vocabulary that I'm going to need in order to use this function. So this prompt was really straightforward. You can get it to elaborate if you need to, and you can get it to speak to you in whatever language you want, really. I just happened to pick Italian, but it could have been French or Finnish or German or anything you want. Now, one of the issues you will potentially have is that when you write the prompt, you need to give it additional, you know, things, and lots of times it more instruction. Lots of times it doesn't seem to understand the first time you tell it something. So in this example, I wanted it to look for the origin of the word and then tell me about the origin and the changes in the words in the language which it originated in. So this was just a bit of fun. But as you can see here, I had to change it because it just didn't seem to understand what I wanted. Initially, it responded to everything in English, which was not what I wanted. I wanted it to, as soon as it worked out that the word's origin was Italian, to speak in Italian. And it eventually did that. But you may have to play around with the prompts to get it to do what it is you want it to do. So quite frequently with this chat GPT thing, I modify the original prompt and put it straight back in the conversation. Sometimes I tell it to reread all the instructions as well. Now, this is a really fun thing to do, which is to play a game. And so the prompt here was, I want to play a French text adventure game. So I'll type the commands in and then you tell me. One of the things I did here was I also told it that I will put in curly brackets English instructions, right? So that it knew these were commands, instructions to it, not commands to do things like open the door, etc. And so what it did here was and one other thing, I did have to make sure that it did 80 characters because otherwise I'd have to scroll back and forth forever. So I made it 80 characters so that it would come out as paragraphs. And then basically it describes the scene. I tell it to open the door. It says it's locked. I said, okay, I want to find the key. It tells me where the key is. I open the door with the key. I'm in a corridor, blah, blah, blah. So it'll just do this text-based game forever and ever and ever. And it's really useful to read and respond and play a game. Now, sometimes you just need some help with your grammar. So I wanted to practice verb conjugation in Korean. So past tense, present tense, future tense. And so I basically say, I'm going to give you a simple English sentence and I want you to put it in all three tenses and then show me what they are. Now, in Korean, there's also a double past tense, which is something where the action is completed in the past. So it happened in the past, it's completed in the past, it's all completely done. And so I had to add that. But you'll notice it immediately forgot that I wanted future tense as well. So I had to retell it that I need all four tenses. And once you do that, it's fine. It understands it and it put all the tenses in. And it gives me an explanation of the verb and the grammatical changes that it's going under. So I put in a more complicated sentence and it'll translate that as well. And it'll show you the conjugations. And unfortunately in this one it forgot the double past, but we'll just leave it at that. Now, Korean has a different alphabet, obviously. It has Hangul and you have to type on a different keyboard. I'm a touch typist. I like touch typing. And so I got it to act as a typing tutor. Now, you can do this with any language, but I basically said I want to type in Korean. This prompt needs some changes because ideally I'd like it in a code block like the adventure game was in, but this worked. And so it gives me the prompt, it tells me what the word is, which helps me build my vocabulary. I retype the word in and off I go. In brackets here, I said, okay, change to short sentences. Now, it kind of misunderstood this and just dumped out a load of sentences. So I gave it another instruction, one sentence at a time. So this is why these curly brackets are useful because, I'm going to give you more instructions. And so it gives me, a word, but it is a sentence also of hello. And so I can type that. Now, there are other uses for the AI, which there's other AI-driven websites where you can talk, not just type to the AI. So this is useful because it means that you use your microphone and you basically do speaking practice, so not just writing. Now, I do lots of language exchanges, so speaking practice isn't one of the things that I normally worry about or would need an AI to do. But writing practice, like the French writing, that is very useful to me. So I tend to do that and use the chat thing for this. But I did sign up for a different type of AI, and this is it's under development. It's free at the moment, and it was posted, and I looked into it. But basically, you speak to the AI, and have a conversation. So this site is called Quasel. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But basically, it's just the AI that is going to do a conversation with you, and you speak. Now, there is an app. I've never used the app. I've only ever used the website. So I can't say one way or the other what it's like. But I'm logged in here, and I can do some various scenarios that the AI is kind of trained to respond in. Now, this one's all set up for French, so I can have a conversation in a bakery with French. It says the French to you, and it writes it on the screen, so you can listen to it, and then you press the microphone button and respond. I'm not going to do that at the moment, but you can play about with this yourself. It's a very interesting tool for conversation when you can't find anyone to speak to, or you're a bit hesitant with your language abilities at the moment. You know, I'm only a beginner in Korean and I struggle to speak Korean. So this sort of thing in Korean is more useful to me than, for example, French, where I can just have conversations with lots of French people. But it's good practice, and it helps you along your way to the point of actually speaking and talking. And so having an AI help you out is very, very useful. I hope this has been useful to you, this brief introduction. I'm sure that you can think of many, many more ways to use an AI conversation partner, or dungeon master, or professor, or whatever you want to tell the AI to be. If you like this sort of video, please subscribe and like. Hopefully it's useful to you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.